Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, a pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking some supposedly classical China era's character. And yesterday we talked about Guan, official. And today, what? Also a special type of official. Well, eventually became official, but starting at its starting point, it doesn't have any political power. All it has is domestic servant for the emperor. So this special class of people, men, I mean, they are men only, they're eunuch class. And because they're close to the power center, the ruler himself, and they sometimes in history adopt power or appropriated power because they are the ultimate communicator. Sometimes when the emperor decides not to meet with the government officials, which are guan, and they will through what the eunuchs to pass words on. And so the eunuchs become this communicator, become almost the face of the emperor, at least the speaker for the emperor, and therefore they take on some power residuals. So eventually, this eunuch not only starting as domestic servants, but then they incorporating into the language as some sort of government official as well, because they are on this command chain. They are even if in a communication role, and they are not officially trained as well. I mean, guan for somebody to become government official in ancient times, there was this whole selection process that's probably through millennia from Sui dynasty, that's even before Tang Dynasty. So it's definitely 1,000 years long tradition of the central government where will hold out this national exams. That's why Chinese are still today very good at taking tests because their ancestors, generations of ancestors who aspire to work in a government to become part of this apparatus, they're going to take national tests, which are like Confucius thoughts. And, at least you are very good at reading and writing. Totally liberal arts major, right? To be, I guess, brainwashed to a good extent that you're not going to rebel, you're going to be totally loyal. And then they get into the government. So they're educated versus what may or may not be educated. Education was not part of the requirements, but the sacrifice of their manhood is. So before they work for uh, the ruler, they have to clean themselves of their manhood. So there are details about, oh, I cannot even imagine how painful that would be psychologically. It's like a traumatizing. And yet some portion of men would choose to cut themselves. Probably some surgeons back then. It's not even scientific and it's even not hygienic. And I guess a ton of men die of infection afterwards. But whoever made it may get close to the center of power, um, and take on some roles over there. So throughout history, 宦官专权 was like a political vote. It's because such male servants, even if they cannot procreate, um, therefore there's no risk of polluting the bloodline of the ruler. But still, they can mess with the political system because they're the chief communication officers sometimes. Okay, so that's what. Ooh, I forgot to change that, but I suspect that this one looks in traditional, it looks the same because 2,000 years ago it looks like that. So again, this testifies to the consistency sometimes when a concept was so already boiled down to its essential. There's nothing else to remove. So throughout history, things will look the same. And even look at Guan and Huan, they almost look the same, right? Both with this roof with a chimney on the top. And then at the bottom, it's kind of a rectangular-ish. just have boxes, have these rectangles, except Guan have two of them. Yesterday we talked about this as a hill. So it's a sitting on top of a hill. That's where the residence of the government officials most likely located in the town. So that's Guan versus Huan here. Even if it looks also rectangular, looks almost the same, but it came totally from a different origin. This is eyeball. That's of a bowed head. So I guess bowing as a body language probably shows submission. So shows that you acknowledge somebody is more powerful to you, and so you bow down to it. So this from side of a bowing head, the eyeball is supposed to look like that. So this is the eyeball, this is the eye, and it's kind of verticalized. So when it's verticalized, that means that person is bowing the head. So this head bowing, it's interesting that Chinese use a small body parts, which is the direction of the eyeball in a bowing head to represent the whole person, the social class of that person. Originally, this bowed head eyeball holder is a slave, a male slave. And this male slave means they don't have their own freedom. They're probably, just owned by somebody, right? Domestic servant. And then this male slave, when it's under this rooftop, that transition them to just a regular male slave to the particular male slaves for the country ruler themselves. So they are this special phenomenon, eunuchs. And I checked that this is not a China only, throughout multiple different cultures. Apparently such needs of domestic servants, butlers in your household. But instead, these are serving the kings, and therefore the king cannot tolerate any other man under the same roof, under the same domestic roof. So they are cut. And we have expressions of 官宦 versus 宦官仪. Just the position, the sequence of the two concepts came out to be different meaning. And I guess that's a kind of a charm and also the mystery of Chinese, how we make sense. Why 宦官 here, 宦官, when we say that, it means eunuch. But when we say 官宦, that means official. So it seems like whichever is the first pronounced concept determines the total of the whole, even if these two are two, as I said, eunuchs starts from this butler, but eventually could become the communication officer of the emperor, therefore take on some power of themselves. So eventually, this huan and guan almost like indistinguishable. And they are made of this garment command chain. So they are put together. When we say 官宦, that means the total of this governing body. I guess it's still higher level. It's not local. It's a central government governing body made of government officials and eunuchs, and eventually there's two population merge into one concept. That means the operating apparatus of the central government versus 宦官. It's a type of official, but they are eunuchs official. So then we know, okay, they are eunuchs only. And it's not the regular, national exam qualified official, but they are manhood get rid of, cleaned, non-reproductive type of man official. Okay. 宦海城府, 宦海城府. So you see 3 characters out of the 4 got this water sign in there. So we're talking about the ocean. And we're talking about water behavior, which is you can sink and you can float. And Chinese use 沉浮, the sinking and the floating behavior. Even if we use it just once, then it's enough to show you the bottom of it and the top of it. right? Give you the boundary, the lower boundary and the upper boundary. So you either sink or you float in the sea of eunuchs. So it's not an individual, of course, it's a whole like army of domestic servants for the emperor. And as you can imagine, even they are a special class of people. Among them, there got to be some competition, there got to be some manipulation, and all that human drama played out in there as well. So therefore, Chinese already form an expression to recognize it's almost like a sea. And when you're just one individual in that sea of this unit class, you can sink or you can float. Depends on many, many factors, some within or without your control. So that's what. And this is an imagery from apparently some movie depicting this class of people. They're still men looking, but they have soft jawlines. I guess when they casting, the casting gotta pick men, I guess, old enough to lose some of their macho-ness or this masculine like outer attributes to make them like softer. And normally, like eunuch in history dramas, they will look like older man, and yeah, dressed in this royal uniforms and sometimes holding this thing, a little bit femininized behavior from them as well. But they can be, I mean, from them, there can came out some minds of, depends on what you see. It can be quite manipulative, quite influential, and some may go, well, actually, throughout the Chinese history, there are some famous eunuchs that make a dent in history and make their name into history. Most of them, I couldn't think of one, but most of them are in negative light because eunuch, even if they have leadership, even if they have vision, even if they may want to do good for the people, but because they are not supposed to mess with the political command chain at all. So even if they did good, they could intend to do good, but the later history book would never, never portray them as heroes. So they're always villain. All right, so that's what. Thank you very much for your time. See you another day.